Well, Maggie Haberman and Van Jones are back with us. Maggie, I want to start with Ivanka Trump. Look, we saw Trump do, I think, to some degree, what we all expected in the courtroom and then after the courtroom, kind of swaggering out with the bombastic take on things. What is the expectation for Ivanka Trump? Tried not to have to testify, appealed, isn't technically involved in the case. Do we know what she's been doing to prepare?
I want to just disagree on one note. I didn't actually expect Trump to take ownership of those statements the way that he did. I didn't expect him to attach himself and not distance himself the way his sons did. So that was surprising to me. In terms of Ivanka Trump, she is going to try to get in and out with as little damage as possible. I know that there has been some prep going on. She has been very reluctant to do this. The fact that she was dropped from the case, but also got her own lawyer separate from Trump lawyers has been a bone of contention in Trump's circle. I expect that she is going to try to do as little as possible to inflame her father, but also to distance herself from any questions that the AG would have.
To take a step back on what you just said about the former president, why do you think he took ownership?
I think sometimes he says things under oath that he doesn't either mean to say or that he has been coached not to say. Now, I think that the performance that we saw in terms of him attacking Letitia James, attacking the judge, describing it all in very political terms, that was all very planned. There's no question about that. And he is, to be clear, he is very, very angry about this case. That is real. That I was not surprised by, but I was surprised by some of what he said that will be used against him as damages are being assessed in this case. Now, look, Engoron, the judge, clearly has an opinion of Trump already. I don't think that there's any real question about that. Has been questioning his credibility repeatedly, questioned his behavior yesterday. But this will all factor into what happens next. And then the hope from the Trump team is, did Engoron do things that they can argue on appeal means it should be overturned? Now, they feel pretty good about that, but we have to see how that plays out.
That's a good question. You're a lawyer, too. I mean, on appeal, if he doesn't prevail, and if he's found civilly liable, do you think Engoron, the judge, has given, and Letitia James with her statements prior to the trial, just tweeting yesterday, basically calling Trump a liar before his testimony, do you think that those give Trump's legal team room for either injunctive relief or an argument against excessive damages?
Sure. All this stuff will play itself out. But here's the reality. Most people can't follow this stuff. They just can't. And so what all this adds up to for a lot of people is Trump is strong as hell. Because most people with 91 counts and all this sort of stuff, they would be crumbling. I mean, I don't want any counts. I don't want a traffic ticket. And so I think what we have to understand is there's something happening in the country where someone who acts this way, who's completely disrespectful, who would flunk out of kindergarten just based on his attitude, is gaining altitude in this country. And it's because nobody can follow all this stuff, and all they see is somebody who looks strong. And when you have an omni crisis, which is what everybody's dealing with financially, geopolitically, whatever, a lot of people would rather have strong and wrong than weak and right. And that's the big picture here.
Maggie, to this point, you, I think, with Jonathan Swan, and I'm forgetting the third byline.
Charlie Savage.
And Charlie on the idea that if he is convicted, I mean, the polls shift dramatically.
Oh, Charlie was not on.
Charlie was on the what would happen in a Trump presidency. That series has also been completely fascinating and very underappreciated for what it means going forward. But the idea that if he's convicted, all of a sudden everybody's going to shift. Biden goes from 4 or 5 down in a lot of the swing states to up 8, 9, 10, 11. Do you believe that?
Well, it's not everybody. It's actually a very narrow slice. It's only 6% of people said that they would flip.
Which is enough to
Which is enough in a couple of states to change the dynamic. But we are talking about, and Van knows this much better than I do, we are talking about very close presidential races over the last 2 cycles where, you know, one was settled by 80,000 votes in 3 states, another was settled by 40,000 votes in 3 states. So anything that is marginal can have a real impact. Do I believe that there are some people who would be troubled by seeing Trump convicted and sentenced to prison? That was the question that was asked in the poll. Yes, I do. Do I believe that people might feel differently in that actuality depending on what else is happening in the world? Yes, I do. I think we are in such totally uncharted territory. And I think to Van's point, what people are seeing with Trump, and this is part of what Trump was doing with this performance, this was very much about the headlines. His folks felt very good about yesterday, and I don't actually think that that was bluster, because if you look at basically all of the coverage, it's Trump lashes out, Trump comes out swinging. It's not Trump, acknowledges that he had some impact on these statements. And that's what they're looking for politically.
Yep. The big surprise yesterday, blue tie. Everything else, totally predictable.
In a way that unsettled you, or in a way that gave you faith about what's ahead?
I agree. I'd expect him to take responsibility for anything. But the only surprise yesterday, he wore a blue tie. Other than that, it's the same Trump show over and over again. And the reason why, it's continuing to work for him politically.
All right, Van Jones, Maggie, we appreciate it, guys. Thank you.